The next low back issue or module I want to talk about is that of instability. It's that issue of the low back not being in the right position, or you might have heard that you're out of alignment, or some of these other terms that deal with the vertebrae not being in the right position. And so the people that this affects the most are those that are going to be in one position for a long period of time. Maybe you're sitting in class, or you sit for your job, and you find that your low back has been bothering you more. This is a group of exercises for you. Now, just to give you a little bit of insight, when you sit, your pelvis rocks back. And so, as I sit here, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, but my pelvis is going to tilt back this way. And what that does is it puts a stretch on all of my tissues in the low back. Not to mention, it usually sets up the rest of my spine for kind of a more strained position as well. But what we're going to do is talk about that from the standpoint of posture, and we're going to go over some exercises to help address that and reverse that trend. So we're going to go over some exercises here. Darren's laying on the mat, but if you want to lay on the carpet at home, that surface would probably be the best because it provides some cushioning, yet it's pretty firm. And I'm going to put a towel roll underneath his low back. I want it to hit him right above the pelvis. So in that bony part of your pelvis there, you can put that towel right above that. So go ahead and bridge up here. And does that feel like it's in about the right place there? A little bit lower. So naturally, that's going to bring his back into a more curved position. That pelvis is going to come forward a little bit. And that's going to give him something to push into. He's kind of starting there a little bit. We're going to do the pelvic tilt. So as he tightens up the abdominal muscles, we want to push into that towel. And part of this is to get better awareness. Often when we sit a lot, our postural awareness is not as good. So what I mean by that is you may not realize that you're even in that position when you're sitting. It might feel normal to you. It might feel abnormal to arch that back up. And so we want to retrain that low back to know what an ideal position is. And so I like the towel underneath there because it's going to force him up a little bit more into that natural, stable position. And so hold that for about 3 seconds when you do that, and around 15 to 20 reps. The next thing is you want to think of challenging that position. So with that towel roll underneath there, that's what I'm going to call his neutral spine. And your neutral position just needs to be a comfortable position that is in that mid-range. And so if I could demonstrate that, we'd have one extreme where your pelvis is rocked back, and the other extreme where your pelvis is forward and your low back is arched. And that neutral spine is going to be kind of in the middle there. So try to replicate that when you're lying down on what your neutral position is. It should be comfortable, it should be relaxed, but you should be able to tighten up those abdominal muscles and hold that position as we try to challenge the abdominals and the pelvic muscles from holding that position. So a real simple way to do that would be to march. And so keeping your knees bent like that, let's lift one at a time, and then maybe even a little slower than that. And when you go slower, it makes those muscles work. It makes them have to support you. And if you find that you're kind of rocking back and forth a lot while doing this, then maybe don't lift up as high. If it feels really easy to you, then you might be able to go up a little bit higher and bring that leg up to kind of a 90-90 position there, depending on where you're at with that. And so if you find that your pelvis here, when you lift up, if it kind of sinks down or it's trying to rotate, then you might only just lift your foot up an inch or two off of the floor. So as you're doing that, the point again is to keep that low back in one position, because we want it to transfer over to everyday life. And so when you're sitting and you're doing things and reaching, we want those abdominals and those back muscles to be engaged and to maintain a position rather than letting things flex and bend and move out of that position. Now this is just one example. There's other ways you can do this. If you put that foot down, Darren, and straighten this one out, you can straighten the leg out and tighten up the abdominals. Now with your legs straight, that's a lot more leverage, and so it's going to want to pull that back up a little bit more. And then go ahead and let that down. Let's go up and down a couple times with that. Now if that's feeling like a little bit more of a challenge to you, then that would be where you're at right now. There's a long list of these, and you've probably seen them and maybe tried them with physical therapy or even yoga or Pilates or some of these other exercise modules. But I just want you to understand why you're doing them. And so it's really all about controlling that low back and keeping it in the right position. Darren, I'm going to have you come up and have a seat on the edge of the table here, so you're just facing that way. And I want to talk a little bit about posture. And kind of like I was showing you before, this part of the low back is key. Now if you don't have something pushing into your low back in your office chair or your school chair, then it's going to be really hard to maintain that position. You can come forward just a little bit there. He can hold that position for maybe, 10 minutes, do you think? But eventually he's going to fatigue too. And go ahead and let yourself relax and just kind of let things relax down. Typically this is kind of where we find ourselves. The problem with that is you're putting a constant stretch on the muscles here and on the posterior part of your disc. And so that disc gets weaker when you have that constant stretch on there. So as you come forward like this, that shortens everything up. It especially puts that disc in a better position. And in order to do that, we want to be able to put more weight through our legs too. So it's not all just going down through your tailbone or through your seat there. You need to have some weight going through your legs. So that's where that seat becomes really important, because we want to hold that in a position that disperses that weight a little bit better. And ideally, you'd probably come up to about the shoulders or so, and once you're in there, then it's a little bit more relaxed. And so, good luck with those. Leave a comment, give me feedback, and we can hopefully develop more useful videos for you.